Hi, this is Dave, producer of Bring Out the Talent, the TTA podcast. Today marks the 50th episode of Bring Out the Talent. It's been quite a run so far for the show that has featured industry experts and, of course, Jocelyn.
Amazing.
And Maria.
Wow.
On behalf of the podcast team, we want to thank you, the listener, for supporting this podcast.
Thank you.
Here's to 50 more.
Thank you and good night.
Bring out the talent.
Bring out the talent.
Bring out the talent.
Welcome to Bring Out the Talent, a podcast featuring learning and development experts discussing innovative approaches and industry insights. Tune in to hear our talent help develop yours. Now here are your hosts, TTA's CEO and President, Maria Melfa, and Talent Manager, Jocelyn Allen.
Good morning, Jocelyn.
Maria, I'm just going to keep talking into the microphone like I'm dancing so people can see how I'm moving today. What an opener. We are raring to go.
That's for sure. So I added some new dance moves today. So.
You did so, and they came so hard that like you knocked your friggin' headphones off of your head. That was another thing. You almost like concussed yourself just there.
Well, that will be a future goal.
That'll be the next one. That'll be how we close season 4. As Maria's just took a nap, guys. We'll be back.
Okay. Well, our guest is sitting there like in shock and embarrassment.
Still, after all of these years, she is still saying, what am I? This is what we've come to. How people will sit and they'll be on like a game show at the end of their career and they're like, oh, this is what I've come to. Like maybe that's where Kisha's at right now.
Yes.
You're welcome.
So let's get started. A study by McKinsey revealed that teams that work collaboratively and cohesively are 50% more likely to achieve higher levels of productivity. I would almost think that could even be higher. When team members effectively collaborate and leverage each other's strengths, they can accomplish more and drive better results. However, many leaders struggle in this area because they don't know their team's strengths, they don't know how to leverage those strengths, or how to maximize teams based on their individual strengths. In this episode of Bring Out the Talent, we are joined by our long-term friend and consultant extraordinaire, Kisha Dixon, who's a certified CliftonStrengths coach. Kisha shares valuable insights on how CliftonStrengths coaching can address challenges, overcome obstacles, and improve team dynamics and performance. She offers best practices for seamlessly integrating CliftonStrengths coaching into team development initiatives, emphasizing its impact on fostering inclusivity, collaboration, sustained team success, and continuous growth. So welcome back, Kisha.
Thanks, Maria. Hi, Jocelyn. How's everybody doing?
So stinking fabulous. Now, of course, we're always glad to have you back here with us, my friend, and how passionate we are about this subject. So I think that today is going to be a very exciting conversation.
Agreed. So how do we get this thing started?
Well, I think we just did. So are we ready to close it up or no?
Yeah,
Great talking to you. What an intro. Thank you and good night. No, well, obviously, Kisha, like we said, we're thrilled to have you back for another episode. You bring such great charisma and insight and conversation to our podcast and all of our trainings because we've worked together for a very long time. And we always learn a lot from you. It seems you've been doing a lot of learning since we last talked. You became a certified CliftonStrengths coach very recently. So can you talk to us about like the process that you went through and what inspired you to take this direction and add to your repertoire, if you will?
My repertoire. That's lovely. Jocelyn, it's a really good question. So I recently become certified. I went through the Gallup class right before Christmas last year and was officially certified in January. So I'm very, very proud of that. It was a long time coming. And I think what really got me excited about doing it was, well, number one, just the investment in myself, in my business, and something I care about passionately. I probably was introduced to CliftonStrengths about 9 years ago. And kind of just fell in love with the focus on the positive. In corporate America, we are so used to taking assessments that tell us what's wrong with us and what we need to fix about ourselves so we can get along better with one another. And this was refreshingly different to me. And it really focused on, hey, what are you great at? What's natural for you? What do people need to know about you to work best with you? And the more I studied about it and learned about it, the more excited I was to dive into the world. And very much like I do with most things, I did all my homework in advance and just really spent a lot of time listening to the podcasts, watching the YouTube videos, reading everything I could find. And the end of last year, just decided it was time to go make it official. I just truly believe that when we can see what's best in one another and honor it and meet people where they are, man, there's very little we can't accomplish in life, and especially in a team at work. So that was my long story short, or short story long. I'm not sure which one it was.
We'll call it medium, right in the middle.
Medium. I love it. Thank you.
Do you think that you're a better learner now than you were? That's a very vague question, but like realistically, I feel like because I know what is out there and available, and I can kind of seek the things that I want to learn, that in my adult life, I understand that I'm a natural, like forever learner, and therefore a better learner because of it. Do you feel like this is like, that's like, is that happening to you, or have you always been a learner who seeks out the information that you want and like chases after it?
Yes and yes. I have to say yes to both. I think the older you get, the better yourself. And the more you realize investing in yourself has a bigger payoff in life. So chasing knowledge is definitely a part of that, seeking to understand. Also, learner is my number 3 in my strengths profile. So I think I come by it kind of naturally. Just having that as a natural talent also just lends to that deep dive, that focus into the things I'm interested in. If you wanted to teach me, I don't know how to play chess well, I don't know how much interest I have in that, so I won't dive into that. But man, learning about people and teams and how we can get the best out of ourselves and one another, that's a party every day for me. I don't know. It just makes me happy.
I understand that completely. I mean, and it shows in the energy that you have, and even in this conversation that we started 3.5 minutes ago. Talk about the role that you play? I'm laughing because you're laughing. Was that a good? I usually am more intentional about what I make people, what I want people to laugh at, but that one got you. So I'll store it in my back pocket, whatever it was. So what about the role as a coach? Like, what is different about this role that you've kind of attained certification in versus others that you held? I mean, I'm assuming, obviously, like the very exciting thing about Strengths Finders is that assessment. Does it start there? Like, what is being a coach provide?
For me personally and professionally, trying to help people is a challenge when they don't know where they need it, or they don't even know what they bring to the table. And one of the things that Clifton says, like Gallup says about CliftonStrengths, is that the assessment is one of the most effective ways to develop and empower people, because the focus is on helping them use what they naturally already have, instead of trying to create something that doesn't exist, or isn't so easy, or isn't so natural. So I think for me, when people take the assessment, I love to see the question mark floating over their head. And then as we kind of lean into the conversation, they're like, oh, yeah, that's so me. Yeah, that's so me. And the thing is, like, hey, you answered the questions. Of course it's so you. But I think the power of it is, it's so descriptive of who we are and innately how we think and respond in situations, that people can finally put a name to the things they've kind of felt and thought for years and didn't know how to articulate.
Yeah, it validates everything. So I think we discussed this in the past, but in the top in my son's top 5, it's strategic and analytical. And it's interesting because that's always something that he's been very passionate about. So he actually majored in sports analytics and actually just got a job in that area, just graduated college. So it's really cool because we always knew that and just kind of reinforced it and kind of put like a name in it. And now my daughter, who will be just finishing up her junior year of high school, I just gave her the Clifton Strength Finder assessment. And it's interesting because she has very similar skills in the top 5 that he has. And she wants to go probably into like development or UI, UX, and she's strategic and analytical too. So it almost like validates just everything that you were kind of thinking. And then you realize, okay, well, I do have kind of strengths in this area. So it is truly fascinating. And as you've worked with us doing some Clifton Strength Finder classes, and I know that was a really cool class that we had many years ago, and we put groups in their top strengths. And it's something I actually have a spreadsheet of everybody's top 5 that I keep on my desk all the time. And I do find myself looking at it probably good 2 to 4 times a month. But yet I don't know exactly how to really apply that. I might say, okay, great. This person is futuristic. Maybe we should get them in a planning meeting. But it's interesting to see how companies use this to take it a step forward. So can you explain how you assist companies on getting to the next level?
Well, certainly. First and foremost, I have to say, you must be a super proud mom. Yes. Especially your son's just got a job out of school. So congratulations.
Thank you. He's actually got a job at the NFL.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
that.
He's moving to New York City next month. So it's kind of a big change, but it's great again to see him follow his passions and his strength.
That's amazing. I think that's what the strengths work is all about. When you look at a team and you look at the matrix of a team, one of the things that I truly believe is we have to be very careful not to see this as predictive of what people can do. It's just descriptive of what they do or how they approach situations in life, communication, relationships, projects, etc. How to use that better? I hate to say it. You probably need a strengths coach to help with that so that you can sit down and do some interviews with some folks and find out what the needs of the team are and how best to align what you have with what you want to accomplish. And what the strength coach will bring to you are some insights on how to tell when people are operating at their best because their needs are being met, and also how they're operating sometimes at they're not quite best, because oftentimes our greatest strengths can provide us our greatest challenges in life and at work, and just help align the dynamics so everyone has the opportunity to bring their best and to do their best and to respect the best in one another. And that's really what that chart sets us up to do. And futuristic, maybe in a planning meeting, but also just could be someone who sees a way forward that some of us can't see. And having the opportunity to share that vision of what could be and have it received in a respectful way does a lot to build confidence in someone who's high and futuristic. The worst thing in the world is to have a whole lot of ideas in your head and nowhere to deposit them.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm sure that would be very frustrating for someone high and futuristic.
Yes.
I am not high and futuristic, so I'm okay with it. But I'm not everybody, and everybody's not me.
It's funny because my second is learner, just like you said, you're very close to yours. But sometimes it's funny because I know it's definitely a strength, but I tend to want to learn about too many things. And sometimes I have too many ideas in my head. Like I look at this article, oh my God, this is unbelievable. We should be doing this. Oh my goodness, we should be doing this. So it's funny. I just kind of thinking about how not to focus on weaknesses, but how your strengths could be weaknesses sometimes,
can create
right?
some challenges.
Yes.
Create some
Yes,
challenges.
challenges, exactly, not weaknesses.
Absolutely. Just can create some distractions. The
Yes.
only in Gallup speak, and I do want to say it that way because I truly believe in it. In Gallup strengths, one of the things that's a very prominent message is that weakness is not what you don't have. Weakness is when you don't use what you do have in a productive way, like when you misfire. That becomes a weakness. Assuming everybody else is a learner is possibly a recipe for a disaster. If you're high in learner and everything you do is to satisfy the needs of that strength and assume everybody else should do it the way you do it, will kind of shut down and create some challenges for how well we work with everyone else. So it's not just about knowing who we are, but recognizing who others are and meeting them with what they need is where we start getting that powerful dynamic that cultivates a great team and a great culture. And you're going to laugh when I say it, but where everybody feels seen and heard and valued and respected, which I say a lot in what I do. Like, let's create those spaces. And strengths is one of the ways you can do that.
You're right on.
You're very serious today, Maria.
No.
Did you miss the first 5 minutes of the show?
Oh God. No, because you make me think a lot.
Yeah, it's insightful.
So that's why I have like 5,000 thoughts in my mind.
Well,
and also too, I swear every time we do a podcast with you, I feel like I'm always interrupting you. Which is like
thinking
horrible.
too fast.
No, just like thinking too fast, or like then I don't know. So,
or maybe
I'm sorry. I apologize on that, but okay.
What about, so I know that we don't call them any of these weaknesses, like they're all strengths, your entire 34, right? It's 34. I'm not misspeaking there. Okay. So what about, because what Maria was sharing about how one of her strengths, number 2, is a learner. And she feels like with the pace at which she wants to learn can sometimes like make it feel like it's not a strength. But you've also shared, because you think it's funny that like your bottom is discipline, right?
Yes,
like number 34 is discipline.
I was going to bring that up.
So does that tie into your forever learner and being like, well, your strength is that you have the passion to go out and learn things. So you're still storing information, but maybe where the scales tip is that you're like, you don't discipline yourself to like stick with 5. You're like, here's 60 things and I'm excited about all of them.
That's a very, very good point, because it is like I was not surprised to see discipline as my 34th, because I run every day late in my entire life. And I've been like this since I've been like probably 5, 6 years old. My mother said even in high school, she was helping me get dressed out the door. So maybe that. So there's been a lot of little things like that in my life. So it doesn't come naturally to me to be disciplined. And my number 1 is achiever. So I feel like I am fighting with myself because I want to achieve, but then I'm not disciplined. So I don't know. So that's why I am completely screwed up.
You're perfectly human. That's really what you are, Maria. And that's what we all are. I read a lot about this stuff, and I don't know if I came up with this analogy. I have to put that in there, or if I read it somewhere and further developed it, or I stole it from someone. That very well could be what it is. But this is the way I see like our 34 strengths. Everybody at birth, we all have all 34. Every single one of us. But imagine that you've placed these 34 amazing tools in a toolbox. So can you see like a toolbox? You lift the lid and there's a little tray on top. The bottom third on your profile are the things at the bottom shoved in the corners of the toolbox. You have them, but you've got to dig deep to pull them out and use them. And they're probably a little awkward because they're not frequently used. Got it? But you have it. It's yours. It's your toolbox.
Very undisciplined.
Then the next layer, you're hilarious, is kind of the things you reach for every once in a while for that odd project, that odd situation. Again, they're yours, but they're a little easier to find when you need them. That's your middle third. in your 34. Your top third are going to sit on the top, and your top 5 to maybe 7 are probably in that tray on the top of the toolbox. And those are the things you reach for naturally all the time. Now, here's the thing about tools in a toolbox. There are many ways to accomplish a project, and tools can be modified and combined with other tools to get things done. So like empathy is number 30 out of 34 for me, yet I've taught classes for you on empathy. And I show that off in class, right? I don't feel what other people feel. However, I have other tools in my toolbox that alert me to what's going on. So I have relator as number 2. I have connectedness as number 5. And that sense of we're all in this together and people matter, so pay attention to people, allows me to have compassion for people, allows me to see what they're feeling and understand when they're in pain or where they're just bathed in joy or whatever it is. And those two things working together can look like empathy from the outside looking in. The only difference is I do not instinctively feel what other people feel. That's a talent of empathy. Doesn't mean I can't convey it, because I have a whole lot of other skills that help me meet people where they are. So you believe you're not disciplined, and that could be true. I mean, I've met you. It could be true. But I also think that when you have to do something, you reach for the tools so you can get things done.
Yes, exactly.
You know what I mean? It's not
Yes.
like you're just going to say, oh, well, today's shot, moving on. Like there's some point where you dig in, and it could be responsibility.
Yes.
You dig in. It could be restorative because you got to fix something. And I don't remember your top 5, to be perfectly honest, but look at your top 5 to 10 and see what keeps you on track when you really, really need to. Those are the tools at the top of the toolbox. And maybe you're using 2 or 3 combined.
Yes.
So you're not lacking. And that's, I think, the most important thing in this is we're not lacking. We just have different approaches. We just have things that naturally feel good to us. And it doesn't mean something's wrong with us. It just means this is what we bring. And let me go find someone who can shore me up in places where I don't feel as strong. And we're happy.
Love the toolbox analogy. That's very, very cool. So
thank you.
So when you said about let's bring somebody else on that can help us. So how do you do that within an organization? What are some of the practices that you talk about?
I think one is have everyone take the assessment and spend time understanding what it means, because there are 34 titles or themes in this assessment, and sometimes we'll look at a word and think it means something, but it doesn't mean that in application of CliftonStrengths. And when we get to that point, that's where a strengths coach comes in, who can introduce the concepts, create a common language, create a little energy around it, and show what those talents, natural things we do, look like at their best, but also identify what they look like at their worst when maybe they are not being fed and nurtured properly. So that gives us agency to make change, to come up with our own action plans, who we are and who we want to be, using what I almost said what God gave us, but I think that's true, just what we're born with naturally. So David, if you have to cut out the what God gave us part, please feel free. But I'll say it again. We each have things that we are naturally good at. And let's honor those things. And then we can look at one another and say, oh, that explains why they need it this way. Oh, that explains this approach that they take, which is so different than the approach I take. How do we work with that?
So all very interesting. And I know I was going to have you talk, but so I was just
My wheels are turning so fast. It's
I
crazy.
know. So it's funny because Kara, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I obviously work very closely with Kara, pretty much everybody here. But Kara's number one strength is discipline.
Nice.
So it's funny because I could see sometimes we are kind of talking a different language. So this could be a good example how you bring teams together and you try to complement somebody's strength versus somebody's challenge. So in this case, with my last being discipline, Kara's top being discipline, how would you coach us to work together?
Well, I'll be honest, I wouldn't just focus on that one theme. Let's look at your top 5 to 10 and learn about how your natural talents work together and learn about how her natural talents work together and ask some questions about how do you get the best of me? What triggers the worst in me? How can we figure out that common ground where I can lean on your top strengths and you can lean on my top strengths, and together we can get it done. And I think first it starts with some individualized work on being able to say, it's okay that discipline is not in my top 10. It's okay. You can't hold everything all the time. We just can't. And what do I have that makes me stand out? What do I bring to the table that's different from everyone else? I think this is a good time to just talk about how unique we are. Gallup says that to have the same top 5 in any random order, the likelihood of meeting someone else with your top 5 in any order is 1 in 340,000. Chances are you'll never meet them in life.
Wow.
To meet someone who has the same top 5 in the exact same order is 1 in 33.4 million.
Wow.
We are so unique in our communities, in our organizations. What we bring is uniquely ours. And if we just take a little time to celebrate that and learn how to make the best of that, we will already naturally come up with some answers on how to bring our best selves and receive someone else's best at the same time. Now, when you look at your top 5, anybody who's taken the CliftonStrengths assessment, if they go back and look, like log in and look at their top 5 on the Gallup site, there's a document there called Strengths Insights. And that document is especially unique and amazing because it looks at your top 5 and what my learner says and Maria, what your learner says are going to be completely different on that document, because my learner is going to be about how learner shows up with my other 4, and your learner is going to be about how your learner shows up with your other 4 in your top 5. And they don't present the same. They don't even sometimes sound like the same thing, because no one strength is used in isolation. It's honestly like, look at your hand, right? You've got 5 digits on the hand and your number 1 is your thumb. The thumb works well by itself, but it can do very little without the other 4 fingers on the hand. The pinky might be the weakest finger, but how many times does it help us grip? And you know what I mean? So these things all work together. Nobody's just one thing, ever. So don't get hung up on the discipline thing. Just appreciate that Kara has it. Just appreciate it and remind her from time to time she needs to slow down a little bit because you don't speak that language.
I know. And the funny thing too is because we have everybody's top 5 on the website, so I just brought it up. And our 3rd is responsibility, which is interesting. I don't even know where. I think my responsibility I think it's around like 10 or so, but very interesting.
It is interesting.
Yes.
Because I'm looking at mine right now too, my 34, because I was like, I know my 5, but going beyond that, I don't even know. But I remember you and I have talked about my bottom one before, because it's like knowing who I am and that like positivity is really high. Harmony is my number 34. And so I know that we don't like look at it as a weakness, but it's like the weakest of the strengths, I guess, is like maybe the better way to say it. The least utilized strength.
And it's funny because that's why you always cause so much chaos, because you don't care about harmony.
Well, it's like that's the thing. So here's where my brain starts going, because I read it and I'm like, what does this mean? And it's people it's like people who are strong in this like really don't like conflict. But you and I know that I think conflict is like the healthiest thing on the planet. And I actually like one of my strengths from a 360 assessment that I did was conflict resolution. And like it was my number one thing. I was like 99% competent in conflict resolution. And the person who gave it to me was like, this is super rare. Like nobody likes to deal with conflict. And I was like, but you don't get anywhere without having differences of opinions and like talking about it. Like that is my view, is like you don't get anywhere by thinking the same way. And so then I go into, and I'm like, well, that's why harmony is so low, is because I welcome the conflict. And then I'm organizing my thoughts into why each thing is in place, which then relates to my number one strength, which is strategic. And I always have to have a reason and a process for why things exist the way that they are. So even when I'm diving into my 34, I'm telling myself why they are the way that they are, because it's just how my brain thinks.
I love it. And the truth is, it doesn't mean you cannot create harmony in spaces. Right. It means you're not driven to, that you're not conflict averse. And therefore, you probably bring a lot of harmony into spaces because you talk about the untouchable things, the elephant in the room. Jocelyn, you walk in, you're like, hey, so nobody sees the elephant. And it still creates a safe space when it's done well. So again, it's not about what we don't have. We have all of it, but sometimes we naturally get to the same resolution just using the tools we use most often. My number 34 out of 34 is something called woo. It's winning others over. Yet people often talk about how energetic or charismatic I can be when I talk. But the thing is, that's not the energy that feeds me. I love quiet, intimate conversations. I love a lot of solitary activities. I don't enjoy networking. But when we put some of my other talents together, they become a strength that can feel like woo to others. Mm-hmm. It's just not the way I'm built. It's not the way I'm driven. If I'm at a party and I know everybody there, I'm going to find the one or two people that I really, really enjoy talking to. And I will hang out with those one or two people for the whole party if I'm left alone by everybody else. In that same time, someone with true woo has spoken to everybody in the whole room. Mm-hmm. And at some point start losing energy, so they move on to the next person. They're not driven by the same thing, but they can look very similar in conjunction with other talents and strengths. So people are always shocked when I'm just like, yeah, no, I got none of it. But I really don't. My energy is much lower. It's much like, I think it's like a little chill energy. Yes. And I am seriously fine not doing any networking. By the way, that's why I work with TTA, in all fairness, because you guys are great at marketing me in a way that I don't know how to market myself.
We got you.
Yeah. And I appreciate that because it takes stress off me. And that, I think, is the key. For me to dig into woo requires a lot of energy to show up with like that. And it's not my happy place.
Yes, I agree. I am pretty low on woo too, and I get very drained by networking. I know when I go to shows, or when I did go to shows, I haven't gone to a show for probably a good couple years now. I would come home just feeling so exhausted. I remember being on like the airport shuttle going back to the airport, and I would be like, please, nobody talk to me. Please, I can't talk anymore. Please, I just want to go on the plane and just be quiet. And it would take me a few days just to like get my energy back. But I know what you're saying. So, and I would always feel almost like kind of put off by these people that were like just so outgoing and everything.
How are you doing that?
I used to feel like, what's wrong with me? Oh my God, I should be really talking more. That's my job. But I see what you're saying. It's not my strength. It's not something I'm comfortable with.
But when you are bringing like energy to the table, it usually it is so much around the learner aspect of you, and like you're like how excited you are about the new things that are coming to the table and like collaboration. What's your number one?
Achiever.
Yeah. So that ties in. Yeah. It's because it's all related to that inspiration that you and passion that you have for
Yes.
driving forward. And so
Yes.
like it makes a lot of sense, because when you have that woo like energy, it's coming from those two places for
Yes.
sure.
I remember Marlene, I believe, is top in woo, which is so funny. Yeah, I think it's like one of her top like 3 or so.
I think it's her number 1.
But yes, I'll have to text her and see what's going on about that. But
yes. And then she is
yes,
the go out and get them,
yes,
who like
exactly.
if she doesn't talk to 100 people in a day, it's not enough. So
Right.
like that is very much in line with like her personality. It's so, this is why we get so jazzed about these conversations, because you relate it to what it's an innate part of your being and what you can kind of like see in other people. Because we've also talked about how we've done exercises between the different kind of parallels of each other, like the marketing team, right? You looked at your top 5s and your bottom 5s and saw where maybe there was a layer or an overlap rather, and it's all because of how we look at not how we look at each other, but how we see each other, and like, how can I help you, how can we adapt, how can we be like more full based on this information that's in front of us. There's really cool conversations that come out of Strengths Finders, and I love it.
It's a common language that everybody gets to. I think for me, the most amazing thing is to go back to an organization I've worked with, like Girl Scouts in Kentucky, and hear someone say something like, oh yeah, that's your individualization at play. Or, oh yeah, your achievers in overdrive right now. And just to hear them adopt this common language, well, we create culture around language. You know what I mean? And are we using the language well is always a really good question. But even more so, are we understanding what each of those themes needs? Because just because it's natural doesn't make it a strength. It makes it a talent, something that you do easily and derive energy from, get joy from. You enjoy it. What makes it a strength is when you know when to use it for the best results. And that takes work, that takes coaching. And that's why it's great for teams, because it can tie into performance management within a team. How are you using this talent theme to make the impact you want to make? Let's talk about some other ways that we can continue to develop this, and eventually it becomes a strength. And now everybody has muscles on their body if they're born healthy. Some of us have bigger biceps than others. Some of us have flabbier biceps than others. And it's just really how much energy have you put into developing this thing that was given to you naturally. And I love analogy, obviously, but that's the way I look at it, is just how can we help you be your best self by using what you already have and understanding what everyone else brings to the table. And let's make an action plan from that. So we're intentional about it. And when we attack things with intention, and barring unforeseen circumstances, got nowhere to go but up. And I love that. I love the growth mindset about let's try it, let's get into it, let's see what happens. And I love the positivity that says, you're doing great. What can we do to be even better? And that's what I'm drawn to in this work. That's why I love to bring it to clients. And I'm really proud to have been certified finally after all these years, because I always had a little imposter syndrome. Let me just be honest, because I understand it, I kind of needed the label that said, yeah, I deserve it. I earned it to get there. And so it matters to me. I talk to my youngest daughter, who, of course, you know, Maria, Sierra, we talk about it all the time. Like, okay, was that intentional or was that a misfire? When she does things and she's not sure why she did them or how they're going to turn out. Like, were you intentional about using this for the best? What do you need for it to come out as the best? And we get a lot of learning out of one another just through those conversations. I love it.
It is a great tool as a parent to really talk to your kids, because it almost just, I mean, again, as we're saying, it's not that there's weaknesses, challenges, but just to try to find the skills that they're naturally strong at.
And
So
it's information.
it's information.
Like you said,
It
it's
helps
eye
them.
opening. So to
Yes.
look and be and recognize that your top 5 makes sense and that like your bottom 2 also makes sense
Yes.
Makes
is
sense.
very like it's super informative as to it, like an identifier almost. Like this is me as it relates to like the strengths finder assessment, and here's what it could mean for me from everything that I've like considered from my past and what I can do moving forward. That's how it was when I saw strategic as my number 1. The first thing I thought of was like, oh, that's why I shop the way that I do. Because like I hate shopping, all of it. I just do not. I'm not somebody who likes to for fun go out for hours and shop for things, and grocery shopping, like, don't get me started. But when I need to do something, it is a mission and I plan it and I go. And it was the first thing where I was like, if it doesn't make sense immediately, I don't do it. Like that is how I shop. If I'm like, I really need a new bag, I'll walk into the store that has bags. I look on the wall. I'm like, it's not happening today. And I leave and I'm done in 5 minutes. Like that's how it was for me. Immediately, I was like, personality definition here. Like this all makes sense.
No, it's so funny that your number 1 is strategic and you hate shopping, and Lori's number 1 is strategic and she absolutely hates shopping
so
too.
we're just gonna go hate shopping together. Like
that's very
there's nothing
interesting
strategic about like going and being like,
I know.
think new clothes today. Like
I know.
Like,
I don't really.
I'll go in and be
Yes.
like, I need a new shirt, so I'm going. Like
It's
that's
very
how I do
funny.
it.
Like I don't love shopping that much either. I do a lot online, but
Yeah.
I like enjoy. Like I actually like going to like more like home stores and stuff like that.
Yes.
But Lori despises it, and you despise it. And
do
again,
too.
you're both strategic. So Keisha, I think we're on
to something here. Yeah, we're figuring it
I
out.
always joke about what's a t-shirt for each major theme in your life. So like I have relator number 2, and my t-shirt probably would say, I'll let you know. Because for me, like big gatherings, a lot of people, that puts a lot of that requires a lot of energy. I love intimate conversations and small dinners, maybe go out with another couple. But when there's 5 couples, then I'm kind of like, I don't know, I'll let you know. It's just a different kind of energy is required for me to show up. And I don't love a lot of big group activities. And so all my friends are like, yeah, we know. and I think that my relators are in play in that, because I love a little tight circle of the people. I don't have to explain why I think what I think. I don't have to explain what happened to me to put me in a mindset. Like they know me intimately and I know them intimately, and we can have a wonderful real conversation, and nobody's talking about trivial things because I need substance or I can go home. Like that's it. So yeah, that's my t-shirt is I'll let you know, for that particular talent. And I think that's fun. I love those conversations. Well, what's that t-shirt look like for discipline? So same bat time, same bat channel. Sounds like discipline to me. How do you show up? I think once we are okay with who we are and okay with who we aren't, we show up as our best selves. And that's the key for me. It's helping people show up as their most authentic and best selves in spaces.
Yes. I'm just thinking of when I did test my daughter a month ago on this. She had such a smile afterwards when we were reading the results. And it was so nice because she does have a lot of learning disabilities. So she's dyslexic and has auditory processing disorder. And she's a very bright girl, but in her mind, because she's had to study a lot harder and just she's not ordinary like learner. I guess there's not such a thing as ordinary learner, but she's had to struggle and work much harder than a lot of people. And I think for her just to see, wow, I do have strengths. And these are strengths in areas where I'm gravitating towards, because she loves spending time on her computer and doing a lot of designing and doing like avatars. And she could see a lot of patterns and now dyslexia. Thankfully, people are talking about that being a strength. And I know we've talked about that too, that LinkedIn actually put that as a strength, which is fantastic because they say they have the sixth sense. So it really it's just, there's so many different areas, but looking back, and I'm just thinking about this more because obviously we're talking about it, she had such a smile on her face when we read that. So I think every parent should really be looking into this. And it's great that a lot of colleges are having a course on this. So I've heard that from a lot of students.
It's
so
that's the identifier and form of belonging in an assessment.
Yes.
Honestly, I absolutely get why she was elated by it because, I said, the connections that I made were unreal. And very and confirmation at the very least.
One of the things that gets me super excited about CliftonStrengths at this point in my life and my career is that it helps create a culture of belonging, because it breaks through some of those stereotypes about, oh, you must be this, you must be that. And you tell the assessment who you are, and it translates it back in a language that we can kind of embrace. And it's a lot more tangible than the thoughts and ideas that float around in our head about ourselves. I've heard, and sadly, I believe it's true, that over 90% of our self-talk is negative as human beings. And then over 80% of what we say to ourselves today is just a repeat of what we said to ourselves yesterday. And to have something that's couched in positive psychology, it talks about what we put into the world and the good we can do in the world that's already a part of us. How can it be anything less than a confidence builder if we just take it a little bit seriously? That's why I think you got to smile out of your daughter for that, is because she can see herself beyond the labels that we each fight against every day. We can see something real in ourselves that's a seed of something wonderful and good, and it has potential, and it gives us a sense of value and self-worth. And then it's about making sure other people can see it too, and we can see it in one another. And I'm not necessarily a kumbaya person, but I do think relationship by relationship, that's how we change the world. That's how we make the world a safer, better, more loving, more giving, more supportive place. Is first we have to know ourselves. I think I'm paraphrasing somebody on that, a great writer perhaps, but to thine own self be true, right? Know yourself and then step out and learn about others. Man, we can be really powerful together if we can just get past the labels that divide us. And that's where we create great cultures. That's where we create great society, great communities, strong families, is just being able to see what other people bring to the table, and we can honor and respect it and step out of the way when they need to step up in their own strengths and talents and allow it. This, for me, it's just good work. I don't know. It feels good.
I love it. It really would change so many things if people really dove into this, and especially at a young age too, and just growing up knowing that they do have these strengths.
Mm-hmm.
They have value.
Yes.
Agreed.
They have value.
Earlier the better.
Mm-hmm.
Because the less we know it when we're young, the less we can reach for it as we get older. And it makes people very unhappy when they question their own value. And how does that make you show up at work? How does that make you show up in your community? How does that make you show up in your family? There's so much positive energy that we could put out there, but somebody's got to also give it to us first.
Yes.
And
imagine
this is a great tool.
Imagine taking this class in high school versus
I know.
chemistry.
Yeah.
No, I mean, unless you obviously want to go into science, but
right.
that's the
but
thing.
There's
just so many.
Start with this
exactly
freshman year,
yes,
and then evolve into the path that you want to prepare for your future education, whether that be pursuing a degree in said topic area or pursuing another path in a craft or a particular skill that you're chasing. Yeah, I agree. It should start with the foundation of who you are as a learner. And it's we were just talk so much about like, oh, adult learning, it's so much different. And yes, it is. But the foundation for that starts in the beginning. And I continue to say it. I can't believe what I know now about what opportunities there are for learning based on how you learn and what you want to learn. That I'm like, why am I in my 30s? And I know that this exists when 14-year-old Jocelyn like really needed that. But
now you can offer something different for your own kids. And that's how we grow generationally. And also just give ourselves forgiveness. We don't know what we don't know. And when we do, it's like just shining a light in a dark corner. And once a dark corner is illuminated, you can't pretend, like you can't unsee, you can't unlearn. What you do with it's up to you. Can I just be honest with that? You can dismiss it, but you can't say you never saw it. You can't say you didn't experience it. And this is just one of those things that lights up a little more pathways in life and gives us even more choices on how we see ourselves and how we see one another. It's empowering, and it allows a pathway for us to find agency and speak on our own behalves. And I just truly believe that if I know it brings out the best in me and I know it brings out the worst in me, it empowers me to have choices and to stand up for myself and stand up for other people. And that's really what I love encouraging people to do, is just speak truth to power and know who you are and be okay with it. And let somebody else be who you're not and be okay and embrace that too. Just, I don't know, change the world one little conversation at a time.
I agree.
Luckily, there's more than one strengths coach out there. There's thousands of them doing the great work. And I'm just so proud to be a part of the community. I can't even tell you.
We're proud of you too, Kisha.
Yes,
I think it's
we
an
are.
excellent fit for you.
Well, thank you
Absolutely,
all so
hands
much.
down.
It really is.
We did a really great job staying on track with the questions that we had.
We haven't asked one question at all. So we're going to have to change the title of this one to
We'll let you know.
Yeah, no.
Okay. I trust you.
A deeper dive into Clifton's
Yeah.
So, which is fine. That's
there's
good.
nothing wrong with it. It's just a funny joke that I'm making, because this is what it should be, is like what inspires us to have more of a conversation. And obviously, Miss Kisha Dixon, we are very inspired by you and the conversations we continue to have. So thank you for your knowledge and wisdom. It always really makes for amazing conversation and a great episode. But there's only one way to end a great episode, and that's with the TTA 10.
Oh, no.
It's the TTA 10 final questions for our guest.
Listen, you sign up for a third episode, you get
The
3
toughest
times
ones.
the TTA 10. Although I don't think we were doing this the first time that we recorded.
No.
So, I mean, we're just making up for lost time. But you know how this goes. The listeners should know how this goes. Maria, do you remember how it goes? Sometimes I forget.
I don't know.
Okay. And our guy David over there, depending on what I just pick a name for him on depending on the day. I know he knows what this is all about. So what do you say we just get to it? And David, can you put 90 seconds on the clock for us?
Yes, indeed, Jocelyn. 90 seconds on the TTA 10 clock, beginning now.
All right, Kisha, if you could have a superpower, what would it be?
Mind reading.
Follow-up question. What would your superhero name be?
Somebody already has it, but Brainiac, of course.
We know Hey Diddle Diddle, the cat and the fiddle, but what jumped over the moon?
For me, I would say everyone, but the answer is cow.
Okay. It's question number 4. What's your number 4 strength?
My number 4 strength is something called input.
What movie, no matter how many times you've seen it, makes you die laughing?
Ooh, A Fish Called Wanda every time.
What is 6 times 2?
12.
You're about to decompress for the day. Do you cozy up with tea and a book or snacks and Netflix?
Neither. Paintbrush.
Oh, love it. I wrote this and I was like, she's going to say something different. I just know Kisha.
Paintbrush.
What's the next certification that you're itching to get?
Ooh, that's a really good one. I feel like it would be the emotional intelligence certification. I'm very, very interested in that.
What's your favorite color?
Orange.
Which is more terrifying, a Sharknado or a zombie tsunami? I can't even say it. Zombie tsunami.
Terrifying. I would enjoy either. I just want to bring a camera. Right. Yeah, I would love the zombie tsunami. I think it's great.
All right, David, there's our 10 questions. We need the verdict, please.
All right, Jocelyn. Well, after adjusting for Jocelyn saying the word tsunami wrong 3 times, the final count, 1 minute, 19 seconds, under the threshold of 90 seconds. And Kisha is indeed a TTA 10 champion. Now, the TTA 10 research department has determined that Kisha loves Broadway plays. Do I have that right, Kisha?
Yes.
Okay. Well, what I did to salute you is I placed a call to Lin-Manuel Miranda. He wasn't too busy. And this is what he came up with. How does a coach and professional, too much credit to mention, 25 years of experience, her leadership is serious, energizing and honest. Her style will bowl you over. She's even got clients that trust her like Coca-Cola. She went to school in New Mexico. Then the next thing you know, she really got thirsty, champion diversity, gave them hell at AOL and hung a shingle as well. Then put the OK in Oklahoma and she'd never be a loner. A true pioneer as a woman of color, and she's a master at pumping up a company's culture. The Girl Scouts, Toll Brothers, they all say the same. Hire this woman and don't forget her name. What's her name, man? Kisha M. Dixon. Her name is Kisha M. Dixon. And her career don't need no fixin', but we'll always remember when she conquered the TTA 10. Thank you.
I think we all just won there, not just Kisha. My friend, that was brilliant.
We're speaking to a woman of many talents and now a man of many talents. Unbelievable, David.
You were pulling out all the stops for these, my dude.
It's getting tough to top it, show to show, episode to episode, but I'm doing my best.
My gosh, Kisha, how does that make you feel?
Well, we have to cut that segment out and have Kisha put that on her profile or something. That's going to be our theme song.
You want my About Me? Press play.
Exactly.
Oh my God. Thank you so much for the opportunity, everyone.
Magic, my friend. So thank you for everything that you do. For more information on the Clifton Strengths Finders assessment and working with Kisha, please visit us at thetrainingassociates.com. We'll see you later.